welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Annie. If you are a current subscriber, welcome back. Today's video is my labor and delivery video of having this little guy right here, not so little anymore. He's gonna be joining me on this video. He is not in a very good mood today. He might be nursing a lot during this video, so if breastfeeding is offensive to you, you shouldn't be on my page anyway, and you shouldn't, breastfeeding should not be offensive to you, but I know there's people out there like that, so if that offends you at all, please stay off my page to begin with. But, like, he's hungry right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and feed him. Okay, so now that we're situated a little bit, this is pretty much what this video is going to look like, and that is completely okay. I would like to introduce you to Dominic Allen. So his first name is just the name that Aaron and I liked the best. His middle name is after my grandfather, whose middle name is also Allen. We call him Nico, we call him Dom, D-Nick, whatever you want to call him. He is just the sweetest boy ever, but that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is my labor and delivery story. So let's get right into that. So first off, I would like to say that I was induced, and I was induced 4 weeks early. So the reason that I was induced, it was a medical induction. I was diagnosed with something called cholestasis. So what made me think that I thought I had cholestasis was the fact that I was so itchy. The bottoms of my feet, my hands, my belly, my chest, my face, I was so itchy. It got to the point where I couldn't even take a shower because I was that itchy. The water hurt my skin. I was waking up in the morning when I would sleep. This would keep me up most of the night, but when I would sleep, I would wake up in the morning and I would have scratches all over my body. I would be bleeding, and it was just terrible. So obviously my doctor had ordered some blood work, and I got that blood work done. My bile acid levels, I believe is what they are, were raised. So we originally had planned an induction for 37 weeks. Now, I had gone into the doctor a couple of days later. I believe it was for a non-stress test. I'm not exactly sure, but I had gone back into the doctor's, and my condition had gotten like 100 times worse. My levels were rising again, so they decided that they were taking him at 36 weeks. With cholestasis, it is very dangerous. When your levels get to a certain level, it can result in a stillbirth. So we obviously wanted to avoid that. We wanted our baby here safe, and as much as I would have liked to naturally let my body go into labor, it wasn't reasonable for us. So the way the medical inductions work at my doctor's office, the hospital I was delivering at, basically they give you an induction date, and then they will call you the night before to tell you what time to be there, what you need to bring, all of that. So I was scheduled for induction on February 26th. We got the phone call on the 25th, the night of the 25th. They told us to be there at 7 a.m. The 26th rolled around. It was a Friday morning. I got up at I think it was 5:30 a.m. I did my makeup. I know that some people are probably like, why'd you do your makeup? I wanted to feel pretty in labor. I didn't feel pretty with my daughter, and I did with my son, so I'm glad I woke up and did my makeup. I finished packing my hospital bag, kissed Aubriella goodbye, talked to my grandmother for a minute, and then we were out the door on the way to our induction. When we got to our induction, we went in, we had to do all the check-in, all of that whole process, and then we were sat in a waiting room, and we had to wait for them to get a room ready. Apparently at the time that we came in, they had just gotten a bunch of women that were in active labor. So because of that, we were left waiting for a little bit. We finally got into our first room, which was not the room that we were going to be delivering in. The first room was to get our COVID test, get all of our my vitals taken, get an ultrasound of the baby to make sure he's head down, go over all of the paperwork, all of the questions that they ask you, all of that kind of stuff. And we also did go over kind of what I wanted my birth plan to look like at that point. So once COVID results came back negative, and once a room opened up, which took forever, they finally put me into the room that I'd be delivering in. I think I got to the room I'd be delivering in around 10 a.m. I think it was. So we got to that room, and we just sat there. and sat there and sat there. Every once in a while a nurse would come in and just say, hey, sorry, you know, we're still waiting to get that induction started for you. And meanwhile, I'm miserable. I'm yelling, I'm shouting, I'm not even in labor yet. And I was mad. I was so mad. I just wanted them to get him out. I was in so much pain. I was so itchy. I was vomiting. I was miserable. And I was worried about my baby. I was worried about what could happen if we didn't get him out soon enough. And he's going to sleep. So I was mad. I was really mad. And if any of those nurses that had me are watching this, I doubt they are. But if you are, I apologize for the way I acted. I'm pretty sure I did apologize when I was in labor anyways. So I just got caught on my necklace. So after a long time, my actual doctor had taken time to come into the actual hospital and come talk to me, and she let me know what was going on. They were having staffing issues. I think they had some call outs. They didn't have enough people scheduled, and they had a ton of women come in active labor. And obviously, because I was a medical induction, I needed to be induced that day or the following day, so I was staying there regardless. There was very brief talk about sending me home, but then decided against, because again, I was a medical induction and it was necessary for my well-being and the well-being of my baby. So she came in, she talked to me about that, and then she had said, but good news, we found more staff to come in and you are being induced. We are going to start shortly. So they kind of went over at that point what the game plan was for induction and all of that. They sent the nurse in, and she had given me Cytotec. So Cytotec, and I believe it was the Cytotec, is a little like apple seed that goes behind your cervix. It stays there, or it dissolves, and then it works over 4 hours. So you can have it every 4 hours. I got that placed at 2 o'clock. At 2:45, I was already having contractions. Nothing consistent, but they were strong. Like, they were strong enough that I was feeling them, and you know, I was like, oh, okay, labor might be getting started. Labor might be getting started at this point. So the rest of the 4 hours, I was just having inconsistent contractions. They were starting to get a little bit, you know, more intense, but nothing crazy yet. So after that, those 4 hours were up, they had decided that they were going to do Cervidil, which I believe that the Cervidil is what looks like a tampon, and it's placed up there like a tampon is, and then it stays there for 12 hours, I believe. 12 hours? Yes, 12 hours. So that was placed around 7 p.m. The night of the 26th. And once that was placed, my contractions started coming about every 5 minutes apart, and they were getting considerably more intense as the night was going on. I believe around 10 o'clock, I was in so much pain. I was crying. My nurse had come in and offered to give me a medication to help with those labor pains. I reluctantly agreed. She was very pushy about it, and later come to find out that it was an opiate that is used in labor, and I am very, very upset about that. And that is part of my birth story that I wish that I could change. And sorry, so we had a little nip slip. But anyways, if I would have known that she was giving me an opiate, I wouldn't have. This medication sent me into a full-blown panic attack. It felt like I was overdosing. Thank goodness this medication only lasted about 45 minutes, and then I was able to go to sleep. But those 45 minutes were the worst 45 minutes of my labor. So I go to bed. I wake up a lot throughout the night because I'm having these contractions, but I'm, you know, trying to sleep when I can sleep. So at this point it's 6 a.m. and they had decided that because my contractions were very close together and they were very, very strong and intense, that they were going to remove the Cervidil and that they were going to talk about getting the epidural and breaking my water and starting Pitocin. So we did just that. I got the epidural placed. I honestly forget what time I got the epidural placed, but I think it was around 10 a.m. My water broke immediately after I got the epidural placed. So they placed the epidural. The nurse and the doctor on call came in to break my water, and they laid me back. They were holding my legs up, and immediately my water broke. The doctor didn't even touch me. So water broke. That was good. They started Pitocin. And at this point I had the epidural, so I'm not really feeling the contractions anymore, so I laid down to go to sleep. And keep in mind, like, all of this stuff takes time, so around the time that I lay down to go to sleep was about noon. I slept for about 2 hours, or not about 2 hours, I slept for about an hour, sorry. I slept for about an hour, hour and a half. I went to bed around 11:30 noon. And when I got up, I felt this pressure. And I felt the contractions, I felt the pain. It just was like the epidural wore off immediately. It was crazy. So I told Aaron, you need to call the nurse right now. I feel the pressure that they talk about, the baby's coming. You need to call the nurse. He called the nurse in, they all came running in. There was a bunch of med students, and of course they asked if it was okay if they came in, and I was happy to be of assistance of assisting these doctors learn, to deliver his babies. I thought it was really cool. They rushed in a mirror so that I could see him coming out, and they confirmed that he was right there. It was time to go. So because the epidural wore off and I felt it, I could feel when my contractions were, so they let me take the lead with pushing. So I pushed when I felt I needed to push. I felt him crowning. I felt the burning, the ring of fire that they talk about. I felt it all, and I watched it all. I watched him coming out, and he came out in 3 pushes. And it was the most amazing feeling ever. Next time I won't even get the epidural. If there is a next time, I won't even get the epidural. I will completely go 100% naturally. I labored with him for almost 20 hours before I got the epidural. So I think that I would do that again. I think I would labor naturally until I have him. It was beautiful. We are so bonded, and it was amazing. But now on to the not so amazing part. Dominic was born at 1:31 p.m. and when he came out, he was not breathing. He was blue. There is nothing like watching the nurses smack your baby around to get your baby to breathe. They had put a little mask over his face, and they were using the thing to pump his lungs to get him to breathe, and he had taken a couple breaths and he was breathing for about 30 seconds. They were able to place him on my chest. I gave him a kiss, and then he stopped breathing again. And they whisked him away to NICU, and I didn't even see him. Aaron actually went right down to NICU and stayed with him for a while they got me cleaned up and got me ready to go to my postpartum room. And it was terrifying, and I don't know how I was able to stay so calm. I think I owe a lot of that to Aaron. If he wasn't calm, I would have freaked out, but I was terrified, and it was heartbreaking, and I thought that my baby was gonna die. So the reason that Dominic went to NICU was because he was not breathing. And also because he was a preemie. They were gonna have to check him out anyways, but they could have done that in our room if he was breathing, if he came out breathing. So finally they got me cleaned up, they got a postpartum room open for me, and they wheeled me on down, and we first stopped at the NICU, and I saw my baby, and I held his hand. That was about all I could do at the time. He was hooked up to a bunch of different machines. I'll try to insert a picture. I don't know if I took any pictures of him laying in the NICU bed hooked up to the machines, but I know I have pictures of me holding him while he's hooked up to the machines. But he was hooked up to a breathing machine. He had IVs, tons of cords and wires coming out of him all over the place. So that was Saturday, February 27th, that he was born, went to NICU, all of that. By, I want to say early Sunday morning, he was off of the breathing machine and he was breathing on his own, but he still was having times of desats, where his oxygen levels were dropping to dangerous levels, and they would have to go over and kind of help him breathe again. And he might have to go back on the breathing machine for a little bit, and then he would get off of it. And it was a whole thing. I couldn't breastfeed him. I was just pumping. I didn't even get to latch him until Sunday night. So over 24 hours after he was born was the first time I got to latch him, which was very, very hard for me because I just envisioned him, coming out, laying on my chest, just doing an hour of skin to skin, him breastfeeding, and I didn't get that. And that makes me very sad. But it is what it is. He needed medical attention and he got it, and he's alive because of it. So at this point I saw him, and it was pretty quick. We were only there for about 10-15 minutes because of course they had to get me to my postpartum room and get me situated in there, because these nurses had to attend to other deliveries. obviously, so I understood that. The next thing I did want to talk about in this video though was how it felt when Dominic went to the NICU. Like I said earlier, it was absolutely terrifying. It was a lot, and I don't think I really processed those emotions until we left without him. When we were in the hospital, it was okay. Honestly, it wasn't nice that he was in the NICU, but it was nice that I was able to go and see him for an hour and feed him and whatever, and then go rest for an hour. And if he woke up during that hour, the nurses would help with him, would take care of him so that I could rest. Because not only did my body just have a very traumatic pregnancy, not a super traumatic birth or anything, but you know, my body had just gone through a lot, and I knew I needed that rest, and it was nice to get that rest. But it was also very sad, and like I said, when we found out that we were getting discharged and he was staying in NICU, because he was still having DSATs, he hadn't gained enough weight back yet, or any of that. He needed to stay in NICU an extra day. So I got discharged and I went home without him. And that was the hardest night of my life, being away from my newborn baby who's premature, and knowing that I had to go home and get some type of sleep so that I could properly care for him when I did bring him home. And we didn't know anything about when he was coming home. When we got discharged, they had said he could come home tomorrow, he could come home in a week from now. That's up to him and how he does. Thankfully, the next day, so I had him, I went in to be induced on a Friday, I had him on a Saturday, we spent Sunday and Monday in the hospital. We were released Monday night. Monday night was my night away from him, and then Tuesday we went into the hospital to visit him in NICU. The pediatrician came around and said he did amazing in the last 24 hours and he was able to come home. He had passed his car seat test, he passed his hearing test, he passed all of his tests. He didn't have any more DSATs for 24 hours or whatever their time was, and he had gained all of his weight back. Forgot to mention he was born at 5 pounds 12 ounces. When we left the hospital, he was 5 pounds 9 ounces. I believe he had dropped down to like 5 pounds 4 or 5 ounces when he was in NICU over those first couple of days. So they needed him to gain a little bit of that back, obviously, before they could discharge him. So finally he was discharged that Tuesday and he came home, and our new adventure started of being parents to 3 kids. So that's about it for my labor and delivery story from when I had Dominic. I hope you enjoyed watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, give me some feedback on this video, whatever, and we will see you in our next video. Bye guys.